because we have 4 contributors today for our next Dignilogue, and I consider this a really important Dignilogue. It's a very ambitious Dignilogue, creating courage through action in the age of Cogitocide, Sociocide, and Ecocide. And I think most of us are fairly familiar with the idea of Sociocide and Ecocide, but we're going to learn a little bit about Cogitocide. And this is coming from His Royal Highness, Prince Hassan bin Talal from Amman, Jordan. Last year, he introduced us to this concept in a message to the world that he gave the whole community. And we're going to build on that idea going forward, along with thinking about how these 3 ecologies fit together and inspire our work to work for the dignity of all people and the planet. We have 4 contributors. One is Becky Tabaczynski. And Becky, when I find you, I'll get your camera on. Becky Tabaczynski has been a lifelong learner. She has contributed to our courses at the University of Massachusetts. There's Becky.
Sorry.
No problem. We're glad to have you here. Becky has been contributing to our course with the University of Massachusetts on human rights, human dignity, and sustainable post-disaster reconstruction. But then the last year, she's donated her time doing research on a very crucial topic that affects the Cogitocide, or our actual thinking environment. That is the topic of conspiracy theories. So she's going to share her work, and she has a pre-recorded message, and we're still glad to have you here. Then Victoria Fontan. Victoria will turn on her camera soon. We're so glad you're here, Victoria. I think she might be in an airport. That's what it looks like. And she has her mask on like a good person. Victoria has an incredible story of her efforts to bring education into the world. And she just this last year had been working in Afghanistan and was evacuated out of Afghanistan. We're so glad she's safe and that she's with us. And then Evelin will be talking about sociocide and her concept of dignism. And finally, Femke, thank you for being with us. Femke is working with a hugely important initiative, and we're so glad you're here. And you'll have to say, Femke, since you're here, if you'd like to talk in person, or we could use your video. What would you like to do? Go ahead and turn on your camera, on your sound.
I would like to for you to show my video, please, and but I can introduce it in a line or two. Yeah.
Very good.
Thank you.
Very good. So let's get started. We're going to start with His Royal Highness's Hassan bin Talal of Jordan. This is part of his message to the world that we shared last year. Why we're bringing it up is he introduces this concept of Cogitocide. We think of the 3 ecologies: the environment, the ecosphere, the social environment, the sociosphere, and he introduced us to the concept of the Cogitosphere, or our thinking environment. And he introduces that in this video that I will show you now.
So I would like to suggest to the participants in this conversation that the centrality of human dignity, or dignism, as Evelin Lindner has termed it, along with Linda Hartling, the concept of a university of dignity, is one way of networking the cultural values that we seek. Of course, I have been very keen to remind those who are working with the infosphere and the terrorsphere, which seems to be taking so much of the time of the modern media of communication and Facebook, etc., that we simply have to bear in mind that our essential quality is cogens, the ability to reflect and meditate wisdom in brief. And so I suggested that maybe we should add a cogitosphere, an ability to think across continents and to develop a route of ideas. We have a silk route, we have a spice route, we have several pilgrimage routes. But when will ideas develop a template of common understanding of how we promote humankind and humankind's values in relation to ecology on the one side and society on the other side? I think that what is important is that we do not take sides, that we try to develop a middle ground and to develop through comprehension an understanding of this all-important struggle to win the human race, win in terms of the time that we do not have, win in terms of the future generations and the respect for their lives, which surely can commit us. And if some of us feel that we are too old or too young, please remember the initiatives such as Generations United, and indeed the words of Mary Catherine Bateson, who talks about second adulthood. I believe that this second adulthood is profitably spent in proactively reaching out to others and talking to others and developing a very real understanding in compassion and love for each other, as indeed the recent papal encyclical Fratelli Tutti emphasized. We are, after all children of this universe, and the time has come to ensure that in this 21st century that the future does not look too much like the darker sides of our past. All the very best to you, and thank you for inviting me.
What a way to get started in our Dignilogue in our group. He has an inspirational vision of the world, and we're so glad we get to be with him in this journey and thinking about the three ecologies. We're going to turn this over to Becky. Now, Becky, I want to check with you. Would you like to say anything before we play your message that you pre-recorded? Becky has donated hours and hours of time looking at the problem of conspiracy theories, misinformation, disinformation that has such a profound impact on the cogitosphere, accelerated by social media. So Becky, we're going to share your video, but would you like to say a few words before we start it?
Well, thank you for listening, but no, I hope it speaks for itself.
Thanks for being with us, Becky, and thanks for donating all that time to look at this crucial issue.
Do you know America's President John Kennedy was murdered by the Central Intelligence Agency? 9/11 was created by people in our own government who want a deep state. Bill Gates created the pandemic, and vaccines have microchips that track us all. Airplane contrails are delivering chemicals that control and sterilize us. And perhaps scariest of all, there's this secret cabal of cannibalistic pedophiles who run a global sex trafficking ring that controls politicians, the media, and Hollywood. To most of us, this just sounds crazy, yet research shows that 50% of Americans believe in at least one conspiracy theory. We are all vulnerable. Our brains are wired to carry suspicion of unknown people as a survival strategy. We look for and find patterns, especially during times of chaos. We rely on social thinking and experts for much of what we believe, which makes us vulnerable, especially when the leaders speak mistruths. The lowest income and less educated people are more vulnerable. Exposure to traditional media can reduce belief in conspiracy theories. But media has changed, and it blurs the boundary between fact and opinion. There's a 24-hour news cycle, diversity and polarization of news stations, and low-cost commentary now substitutes for investigative reporting. Social media companies hire attention engineers and have computerized algorithms to provide content mirroring what you have already seen. MIT researchers have shown that misinformation spreads 6 times faster on the internet than fact. And yet, many Americans get their news from social media. There has been a measurable and significant erosion of trust in all of our institutions and media, leading to the spread of conspiracy theories. In the book, How Propaganda Works, Jason Stanley says social inequity is really the cause. Advantaged groups control the media and politics, but disadvantaged groups buy into the message. So, for example, you might believe America is the land of opportunity, but you personally don't have opportunity, so you're vulnerable to look for an outgroup to blame. So income inequality growth gives conspiracy theories fertile ground. One of the most devastating impacts of conspiracy theories was the fabricated Protocols of the Elders of Zion, a text that described the Jewish domination of the world. As Hitler rose to power, it was taught in German schools and contributed to the genocide of millions. In South Africa, 300,000 deaths have been attributed to the conspiracy theory that AIDS was a hoax to sell expensive drugs. Steve Paddock killed 60 people due to his mistaken belief that the government was trying to take guns from Texans. As if genocide, violence, and death weren't enough, there are other impacts. People looking for social connection can find themselves isolated from family and friends when they believe in conspiracy theories. They're less likely to vote, to volunteer, to donate, or even to invest in the stock market. Democracy itself is undermined when there cannot be agreement on a set of facts. Once an individual believes in a conspiracy theory, it's virtually impossible to change. Rebutting the theory can backfire and increase in belief simply by exposure. Thus, prevention is the key. Teaching media literacy can have some impact. Deplatforming or banning the spreaders of conspiracy theory and conspiracy theory entrepreneurs has been effective, and perhaps legislation should be considered to change filtering and search algorithms on social media. Social isolation can lead to belief in conspiracy theory, but those who believe these theories can find themselves isolated from family and friends. Politicians and media polarization causes the theories to grow, but conspiracy theory also causes polarization. These theories can undermine faith in the media and government, but lack of faith contributes to conspiracy theories. Crises are a time when these theories grow, but belief in them can also further crisis. Now, more than ever, we need to rely on fact to control the crisis of climate change and the pandemic. We have to break this vicious and very dangerous cycle. Social equity is the key to do so. To truly prevent conspiracy theory, we need a culture that avoids the humiliation of social inequity and injustice. As a culture, we must value the truth. When dignity is supported through education, empowerment through opportunity, and voting rights, people are less susceptible. Social equity and the avoiding of humiliation is the true solution to conspiracy theory, and, as the theme of the conference says, provides dignity through solidarity.
Please give Becky a round of applause for, boy, she really had lots of research and she had to narrow it down to 5 minutes. So Becky, I hope you know how much we appreciate your contribution to the workshop. Your work reminds me of the Nobel Peace Prize recipient of this year.
Thank you.
Maria Ressa, who says, if you have no facts, you have no truths, and you can't have trust. And if you don't have any of these, you don't have democracy. Beyond that, if you don't have facts, you don't have a shared reality. So you can't solve the existential problems of climate and the coronavirus. So thank you for making that contribution. We hope to turn that presentation and the rest of your research into a working paper that will be posted online for everyone to tap into for future interest. So everyone, please give Becky a round of applause with your little reaction icons. Hooray. Thank you so much. And now, believe it or not, I can't believe it. Victoria Fontan. Victoria, she's been with us from the very start of our work as a community. She's been with us since 2002, and every day she seems to be risking her life to clean up the Cogitosphere through education. She is the author of the book Decolonizing Peace, which turns out to be one of our top sellers for Dignity Press. So congratulations, Victoria. She is currently the Vice President of Academic Affairs at American University in Afghanistan, a university in exile. We're so happy and thankful that she was evacuated safely out of Afghanistan. Victoria, I'm going to turn it over to you. Thank you so much for being with us. We're giving Victoria a little extra time because she has a big story to tell. So welcome, Victoria Fontan.
Thank you very much, Linda, and thank you, Evelyn, and thank you everyone for being here today and for listening to my account of the teamwork that has sought to put our university on a path to shared dignity through crisis. And you know, sometimes it's a little cliche to say that crises bring opportunities, but this one that we have lived over the past summer has really brought us together as a community. And I would like to share that story of not just us re-establishing ourselves as a university in exile in dignity, but a dignity of substance, and that is something very important. So as August 15th arrived, which August 15th was the fall of Kabul, we were all in denial. We all thought that the past 20 years of life support towards Afghanistan, millions and trillions of dollars sent into Afghanistan, had meant that the country wouldn't fall overnight. And it literally did. So on August 12th, I was called by the French embassy and told it's only a matter of days before the country is going to fall. And my president at the same time was called by the New York Times, telling him that the office was folding. And so we had an hour to decide whether we were going to go or not. And that was the first hurdle, because we didn't want to go, because we were with our community, and because what would happen to all our colleagues and all our students and all our friends, you know, if we left, and why would we leave? Why they would still be in Afghanistan? And they were, you know, if you remember the speeches from President Biden, it was all about, oh, we tried to help them and Afghans failed. And in a way, they deserved what was about to happen to them. So on August 12th, my president and I decided to try and get as many students as we could from Afghanistan, because it wasn't fair that just us would leave. And it was not just us. I don't know how many of you saw the movie or Hotel Rwanda, but I remember that scene when the internationals leave and they take their dogs with them. And the rest of the community, the Tutsi community in Rwanda, was left to the genociders. And we were in the same situation. We had 2 dogs, 1 cat, 4 Afghan students, and we were 5 internationals. And so what we did was that we decided if we left, everybody should leave. And so we called universities, American universities in conflict areas, one in Suleimaniye in Iraq, in Iraqi Kurdistan, and the other one, American University of Central Asia in Bishkek. And we asked them to welcome our students. In 1 hour, we got an answer back from the American University of Iraq in Suleimani, telling us they were ready to take 300 students, even students without passports. The president of Iraq was going to give them free passage. They had raised the money, and even the financial director of that university said yes. And as you know, for those of you who work in universities, it is extraordinary. And so we knew on August 12th that we had at least a plane of 300 students able to evacuate 300 students. The American University of Central Asia did the same thing. It's part of the Open Society University Network. And here we found as August 15th occurred, we had two choices. That morning, there was a private jet that was taking us internationals out of Afghanistan. And then my president and I sat down and we said, whoever takes that plane is going to be out of commission for the next 48 hours. We didn't even know where the plane would go. We didn't know where it would land. And we said, one of us is going to be out of commission. The other one has to make the student lists for the rest of the students to leave. And so, we flipped a coin, and then I was the one who stayed, and he left, and he was completely up in the air for the next 48 hours. And in that 48 hours, it was, those were very painful scenes, because it was an entire country that had been basically left to the mercy of their worst nightmare. And so as we saw the country disintegrate, we also realized that all the promises that had been made were, was understood by the Afghans as not just lies, but as somehow dignity of circumstance. And so we realized that what we needed to do was to bring back the dignity of substance and to say, as an institution, we are in this together, and we're going to stay in this together. And everything that we do throughout our network of solidarity is going to be for everyone to be safe and to get out of Afghanistan. The mission is not over until we're all out. And so we've been working towards it ever since. But that has brought other challenges. So as people got out, as our faculty got out, we have still 3 full-time faculty members in Kabul who are in hiding. And as they got out, our major donor, USAID, said, wait a second, our cooperative agreement says we need to pay people in Afghanistan in Afghanis, which is the currency. But then we said, no, we have people now who are in refugee camps all over the world. We have people in 20 countries, and we have faculty still teaching from refugee camps. And that faculty hasn't been paid for more than 4 months now, since the fall of Kabul, because USA dictates us to pay them in their Afghan bank accounts in Afghan. So they have no money. They are still teaching online. And what we've done is that we've established a fund where we can share our salaries with our Afghan colleagues. So we are doing this now. And throughout all this, we've realized that what we were doing for solidarity and for dignity was not enough, because now we are giving part of our salaries to our colleagues. But then what happens afterwards? We still have huge disparities in salaries between internationals and nationals. And so we are now undergoing a process of equalization of all our salaries, because we're all equals. And sometimes, again, that dignity of substance is about putting our money literally where our words and our mouth is. And so we are also working on that. What we have found throughout this ordeal for the whole community is that we found people ready to take 1 or 2 or 3 Afghan students just to say, hey, I am hosting a few Afghan students, aren't I great? Universities from all over the world wanting, as my president says, a scoop. Give me a scoop of displaced students so that I can take a photo operation with them. We found many universities across the world that wanted to dismantle us like a ship out of a shipwreck in Pakistan. And somehow very few universities within our network wanted us to thrive, to succeed, to be reborn, and to keep working for education in Afghanistan. Today, we are teaching online. We are the only university teaching women in Afghanistan as of today. And we're very proud of that, and we will continue. And we will continue doing this without salaries or with less salaries. But somehow that has taught us that there were other universities like us within our network who were thinking the same way and who tried to help us instead of dismantling us. And we are not just establishing a dignity-bound institution but a dignity-bound network of institutions like us who are truly aiming to empower one another and to help one another grow. And that's the beautiful story that I wanted to share today, because we have seen during this crisis how solidarity can change the world, and we will continue doing so, and with all your support. And thank you very much for giving me this platform tonight.
Victoria, thank you. I think you are a living example of courage in connection with all who are in your sphere to really bring the lives of people forward in a way that's positive for the rest of the world. I so much appreciate your message about dignity of substance instead of just window dressing. We want dignity of substance. Your illustration of how you came together with these other institutions in solidarity to help your students. It is a great honor to have you with us today. And thank you for sharing your story. I can't believe you're in an airport right now. And I know we have a little sound interference, but please, everyone, give Victoria a round of applause, because she is a living example of courage and action around the world. Thank you so much, Victoria. Now,
dear Linda, do we dare to have a group photo with Victoria, or will that take too much time?
Let's go and dare to have a group photo while we have Victoria in one spot. And I'm putting everybody back in the spotlight if all goes well, but you need to have your camera on. That's great. Okay, add the spotlight. Comes Femke, here comes you, and I'll put myself in the spotlight. Whoops. There we go. All right, we can take a picture now. Oh, without the mask, wonderful.
Anybody who wants to be in the photo. Yes, anybody who wants to be in the
hang on, Anna. We're going to finish. I think we're going to finish our Dignilogue before we move to the big photo. So in about 20 minutes. Oh, I know what you're saying. You're saying why we have Victoria here. Is that what you're saying? You want everybody? Okay, everyone. Anybody who wants to be in the photo, turn on your camera. We're going to get a picture with Victoria.
Oh, I'm sorry. Got it.
Now I understand. All right. Give Victoria a wave as she's on to say.
Yeah, I'm taking pictures, but I love the wave. This is wonderful. Thank you, Victoria. That was incredibly powerful.
Thank you, Victoria. What a contribution to our
Thank you.
Thank you for being here.
For your courage.
And yes, it's really, her courage is incredible. So we're glad you're with us, and all of us. I mean, I highly recommend Victoria's book, and we're going to talk her into writing another one, I hope, soon, when she has spare time.
I'm ready. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Victoria. Now I'm going to put us back in the spotlight, our Dignilogue group. And wonderful, wonderful. Thank you. And I guess what we'll do, Evelin, is we'll step out of the spotlight when you start to talk. But as you know, Evelin Lindner is a founding president of Human Dignity and Humiliation Studies. She's going to be talking to us about sociocide and her concept of dignism. Evelin, I'm turning it over to you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. And all my love to Victoria. And we wish you all the strength you need now, also in the next days. You are in touch with all the people around the world, and you are talking with them and doing your best to make everybody feel safe. So we are absolutely in awe of your courageous work. And now I would like to come to sociocide. What is sociocide? What do you think? What do you associate with that word? Ecocide is the killing of our ecosphere, of our ecological world, of which we are only a small part, despite our belief to be its masters. Sociocide is the killing of our sociosphere, of the cohesion in our human communities, local and global. In other words, while ecocide is the wearing down and destruction of the ecological fabric of our planet, sociocide is the wearing down and destruction of the quality of our human relations on Earth, of the social fabric of our societies and communities. And Becky Tabaczynski, she spoke of the conspiracy theories that are part of this Cogitocide. And I have a longer paper that I have uploaded on the website and that you can click on and can see. And here, because we want to give Victoria as much time as we can, I made my contribution as short as I can. And I want to come now to what Linda talked about already, dignism. When I go around in the world, I see cycles of humiliation, and they are rather than being healed, they are often made worse by hate speech. This is what I observe on all continents. And what worries me most is hate speech surrounding the capitalism versus socialism debate, and by enraged people who do not even know what these words mean. My aim is therefore to turn away from fighting over backward-looking mindsets. I wish to point at positive, future-oriented goals that can unite us all. So what are your thoughts? How can we sideline such hot-button-ism words? Socialism, communism, capitalism. Perhaps we do not need more isms, but if we need isms, I have coined the phrase dignism, dignityism, as a compass for the co-construction of new global governance arrangements. I ask us, humanity as a whole, all citizens of Earthland, to forge a global citizens movement under the banner of a new connective narrative, so we can make a decent world come true. And here is how I define dignism. Describes a world where every newborn finds space and is nurtured to unfold their highest and best, embedded in a social context of loving appreciation and connection, where the carrying capacity of the planet guides the ways in which basic needs are met. It is a world where unity in diversity reigns, where we unite in respecting human dignity and celebrating diversity, where we prevent unity from devolving into oppressive uniformity, and where we keep diversity from sliding into hostile division. It is a world where we protect diversity from being leveled out through uniformity and prevent unity from being broken down through division. Dignism means avoiding uniformity without diversity as much as avoiding division without unity. It means transforming everything into loving global unity in diversity. And you can read more of my definition in the text on the website of this workshop. And there I go then to the next topic, solidarity. And there I quote our dear philosopher, peace philosopher, Howard Richards, and his thoughts about the use of the word solidarity. Because for some people, the word solidarity doesn't sound good. They associate words like the gulag and terror with the word solidarity. So I share in my paper his thoughts to that, and you can click on the website, and I want to make it short here. So now to the end, I would like to come to Femke Wijdekop, who will be speaking after me now. I'm so happy that Femke Wijdekop is with us in this Dignilogue. Just like me, she was inspired by Polly Higgins and her advocacy of law of ecocide. I was in touch with late Polly Higgins when she held the Highness professorial chair in global justice and the environment at the University of Oslo from 2012 to 2014. Inga Boestad had invited Polly. Inga Boestad is a philosopher and professor at the University of Oslo, and she was then the pro-rector of the university. Inga has also hosted the launch of our World Dignity University initiative at the University of Oslo in 2011. And our dear David Yamada will lead the Dignilogue on that. And despite being extremely busy, Inga kindly sent us a video greeting for this workshop. You find it on the website. Polly Higgins held the Arne Næss chair. Arne Næss was one of the most renowned Norwegian philosophers. He and his wife attended one of our two foundational conferences for the Human DHS movement, namely our conference in 2003 in Paris. And guess who was there too? Victoria Fontan was there too in Paris in 2003. And Linda and I are so proud of this large web of loving dignity connections that grow through our work. I would now like to warmly welcome Femke Wijdekop.
Thank you so much, Evelyn. I feel so honored to be part of this Dignilogue, and I'm really in awe of Victoria's story and all of the shares I've heard. I also recorded a video, so I won't talk too much right now, but really the work we do to make ecocide, the massive damage and destruction of ecosystems, a crime against peace, is all about protecting the dignity of the inhabitants of the earth through law. And the inhabitants would be the human and the non-human inhabitants. So it's a very ecocentric concept. So please, I hope you enjoy my video. Thank you very much for giving me some time. Thank you. Good afternoon. Thank you so much for giving me the space and time to share with you a little bit about my own involvement with Stop Ecocide. My name is Femke Wijdekop. I'm a Dutch lawyer, and I became involved with the work to make ecocide, the massive damage and destruction of ecosystems, a crime against peace, back in 2013. That's when I first heard Polly Higgins talk about her vision for a world free of ecocide. It was through a TED Talk that she gave, and I watched that on New Year's Day, and I was so delighted to hear and to learn about her very holistic and very ecocentric perspective on how we as humans relate to the earth, and how we can use law in order to create a change in consciousness and to further an awareness of our interconnectedness with the natural world. And of course, to use law as a very effective tool for deterrence, for putting up boundaries on how we are allowed to treat the earth and her inhabitants. I was trained as a lawyer myself, and I had worked at the university for a couple of years. And after that, I worked in a very completely different field, namely in a bookstore, the American Book Center in Amsterdam, where I was very excitedly involved in buying and selling books about personal growth, about consciousness, about spirituality, about how we as humans can be a peaceful presence on the earth. So I sold and I bought those books, but I also was involved in hosting events on these kind of topics and interviewing authors and giving authors talks. And because of these contacts with the publishing world, I was enabled to interview some very interesting thinkers and people with an interesting vision. For example, Byron Katie or Marianne Williamson, Don Miguel Ruiz, and a few others. So that was quite an honor for me to be able to speak to such people, and it has influenced me also in my thinking now as a lawyer of how we can use both the left and the right side of our brain to come up with more creative and integrative visions on how law can be a tool in order to move to more peaceful coexistence on this planet. So when I heard Polly's TED Talk back in 2013, I started to use what I had at hand. I started to use my own experience in the world of communication. I started to use my own contacts and my legal knowledge to start to spread this idea. And I think my subconscious motivation was, how can I help this idea of ecocide as a crime? How can I help it to grow roots in my country and maybe even internationally? So that's what I've been doing, and I started to contribute through publication in a legal journal, and through giving interviews, and through holding an event with Polly Higgins, becoming part of a European Citizens Initiative to make ecocide a crime in Europe. All these kind of different involvements, but it was all about communicating the idea and assisting with the legal insight into how it might work. Well, what we've seen is that while the idea was originally quite a fringe idea, it was embraced by the Green and Progressive parties, but not yet by the mainstream. But now it has become really a topic of mainstream debate. A lot of press has been on ecocide the last year, also in the USA, thanks to the launch of the definition in June of this year. There was a very authoritative definition by a panel of top lawyers, and with that came a lot of good publicity. Also, it interested a lot of states. Actually, around 16 ICC member states are in touch with us to talk about how we can add ecocide as a fifth crime against peace to the Rome Statute of the ICC, as well as the European Parliament has spoken out 4 times in favor of the recognition of ecocide as a crime. And there are several European countries, among which Belgium and France, that have their own legislative proposal to outlaw ecocide, also of course on a national level, as well as involvement from among others, Chile and Mexico, and of course the Maldives and Vanuatu, and other European countries like Luxembourg and Sweden that are part of the conversation. So the International Parliamentary Union also gave a recommendation or a resolution in support of ecocide law, and we have the increased support of religious leaders, which is very important, that it's not only a leftish or progressive issue, but it should be, of course, embraced by other sides of the political spectrum. And the support of religious leaders like Pope Francis and of the Patriarch of the Orthodox Church that came in only a month ago is very instrumental in reaching other political parties, for example, that are more faith-based. So we see that the web of support for law of ecocide is really becoming stronger. And it is wonderful for me as a citizen and as a lawyer and as a human being and as a mother to see how this idea from fringe became much more mainstream, and the momentum is growing. And it's growing because we are becoming more aware of the effects of our behavior on the natural world and on the longer term. So sadly, the ecological and existential crisis seems to be necessary to shake us up and to have us rethink our own position on this planet, and to rethink how law should guide our behavior and what should be the limits of behavior that is allowed and that is not allowed by the law. It has been a profoundly satisfying journey for me to be part of it, and I do my work with my mind, with my heart, and with my soul. And the vision of ecocide law is really rooted in values of care, of a duty of care, in an awareness of our interconnectedness with each other and with the natural world, and in an awareness of the dignity of us as humans, but also the dignity of other creatures on this planet. So it has, of course, a very ecocentric motivation. One could even say that it has some roots in ecofeminism. That's why it's a very heartening thing for me to do. Of course, we all hope that our work will be obsolete in a few years when ecocide is prohibited and we are no longer needed. But until that time, I will be giving my full dedication to this. And very much thank you for listening to talk about my own work. Looking forward to connect with you, because this issue of dignity, honoring our dignity, is very close to my heart and close to my own philosophy that I try to live by in my own life. So thank you very much, and I hope we can stay in touch, and I wish you a wonderful session. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Femke, thank you so much for this contribution to our conversation. We want to be part of your web of support on this important, crucially important initiative. And we hope that we'll be able to stay in touch in a way that really lets you know how much we admire and want to encourage the work you're doing. Do you want to add anything else to your dialogue right now?
No, only that we had the yearly meeting of the Assembly of State Parties of the ICC this week, and we did a side event on Ecocide, attended by 1,400 participants. So a wonderful, wonderful show up, and it's getting stronger and stronger. We can almost not keep up with the news, New York Times, Newsweek, and the Times everywhere, you know. So it's an idea whose time has come. So I'm standing on the shoulders of Polly Higgins, blessed be her soul, who's no longer with us, but her vision lives on, and this is also her heritage for a large part. And I will get back to the question about the US presence, because we're not as rooted there yet, but there are some collaborations. So thank you very much.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Femke. We are really honored to have you with us. Victoria, you may be on the move again, but we want you to know how much we appreciate your contribution to this Dignilogue. Yes, wave, goodbye. We wish you well, stay safe. This group, our women and His Royal Highness, they're living examples of creating courage through action. And so I'm gonna let you move into your small group discussions, thinking about creating courage through action, whether it's for the environment, for our education, for dignism in the world, and for ecological issues. Think about how you're going to create courage through action. That's your conversation. And before we go into the room, I want to read a poem from Kim Stafford, who is the Oregon Poet Laureate. It's called Poems for a Cause. What's your calling? What's your cause? If it's justice, then pen a few words into a chant or a song that can call us all upright to witness, to testify. If you believe education is the key, then compose a winsome proclamation for a child to recite, standing small or tall in the halls of power. If it's earth that tugs at your heart, or immigrant children who haunt your dreams, or people's bad luck who are cast out to camp under the overpass, then find your way to sing your sorrows into remedy, your hurt into help, syllables to gather others, so words can guide our work and your pain can be your refrain for change. That's what we're working toward, everyone. And now you get to go into your small groups for about 15 minutes to talk about some of the important, crucially important ideas that you've heard in this last Dignilogue. Thanks. Please applaud our contributors one more time. We are so glad they could be with us. And thank you so much, Femke and Evelyn and Victoria and Becky. We'll see you after the small group.